In the information war of the new millennium, the first shots have already been fired.
Who is the net warrior? He is every man and every woman.
And the net warriors might be just one click away from a virtual revolution.
Groups of nation states are not going to be able to close out civil society actors and should stop trying.
Words as war, not words for war. That's hacktivism.
At the very least, they're making politics fun again.
Yeah, the world gets crazier and crazier. You don't have to be somewhere. On the internet, you can be somewhere and everywhere at the same moment.
These are the faces behind the groups, behind the electronic protests designed to take capitalism offline.
If somebody is denying your free speech in the real world, if somebody is abusing your human rights in the real world, then you should be able to take a comparable action on the internet.
So fire up your browser as we journey into cyberspace and beyond to meet the hacktivists and those whose job it is to stop them.
Now you can sit halfway around the world and shut down a company's ability to operate by clicking a couple buttons.
Meet Nat. He's the newest face in the international world of cyber protest. Between classes at Toronto University, you'll find him on the internet under the name Metacom, swapping ideas with other hacktivists via his own online magazine. Nat's mission is to find ways of mixing traditional forms of street protest with activism online.
I don't know if I directly like internet action more, because I definitely enjoy the street actions as well. I'm very curious, and in the events that I've taken part in before, particularly in Seattle, I went right up to the front lines to see what was going on, got tear gassed in the process, but I don't think I would ever lock myself to a group of people in the middle of the street. NART, N-A-R-T.
Nat, along with 300 others, has signed up for the weekend to learn more about the latest globalization acronym, the FTAA, or Free Trade Area of the Americas. It's a new mega trading bloc proposed to stretch all the way from Chile to Alaska. In the ongoing carnival against capitalism, the next fixture is 5 weeks away in Quebec City.
Quebec City, we have to get in the way of the smooth functioning of that meeting, and that's why direct action is so important. This is bullshit what they're doing in our city. It's bullshit the way they're treating those direct action people. It's bullshit the fact that they're bringing this fence. It's bullshit these policies. And I guess to end, what I'm hoping is Quebec City will be one big "this is bullshit" moment for a lot of people.
I'm not against globalization, all of us getting together to resist this. I like to think of it in terms of anti-corporate globalization. That is, we, as the people, want to determine the nature of this globalization. Because it's happening. And we're not against that. We're against how it's happening and who's in control of how it's happening.
No! WTO gotta go!
The Battle of Seattle is a coming out party for the anti-globalization movement. But the untold story of Seattle is that while 50,000 protesters took to the streets, a much bigger protest was happening out in cyberspace.
The New York Times, after Seattle, said there's a new superpower in the world. It's called the public. And so really, we're just developing the system whereby people can express. Electric hippies don't tell them what to say. We just provide the mechanism whereby they can say something.
They say if you can remember the classic sit-ins of the 60s and 70s, then you probably weren't there. But now hacktivist groups like Electro Hippies have taken the spirit of those times onto the internet. With what's called a virtual sit-in, masses of people using their home computers can collectively ping the website of a target corporation or institution and stop it from doing business online.
For quite a few hours during the WTO conference when we had our protest, you couldn't get to the WTO website. Your computer would endlessly wait and wait and wait for a response, and it never turned up. This isn't an action that's launched by one person cracking a computer. This takes 10,000 or 50,000 people. To make it effective, 10,000 or 50,000 across time zones to make it work. And so we say it's democratic. The Electric was started up in the middle of '99, really as a result of people inquiring what is possible in terms of campaigning on the internet. And that's what we're really interested in doing, is extending this to a big an audience as possible, particularly people who don't normally get on the internet. Where we have to go with computer activism is developing it as a real-world thing that ordinary people feel they can take part in. So we really do have a mission to explain what computer-based activism is all about and show that it's relevant to people's everyday lives and that they can take part in it. And it does, therefore, have a worthwhile place in society.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Right.
Got Earl Grey?
Earl Grey, yeah, I got some Earl Grey.
The teapot is rarely off the boil in an Electro Hippie's kitchen.
Yeah, you might want some... Do you want
Paul's
some
come from London to visit Tim, who's also a member of a local Greens group.
It keeps bees.
The day's to be spent brainstorming ideas about the Electro Hippies' next big online action.
Who do you want to lobby? Do you want to do
The target is a summit of the Americas in Quebec.
Because we've got the letter writer.
Yes, yeah.
And I've got the distributed bandwidth thing, which is going to make the Quebec action work. I've got all that working.
Great.
So we can do that.
Yeah.
And then we just talk a bit about what's happening in Quebec and sort of outline what the Quebec conference is all about and what's really the Quebec state is doing to make sure people don't get anywhere near the conference. And so, online action is the only viable option if you want to make a protest. And a bit about what Electric is going to set up with some other groups in America and Canada. And really, it's just about having a bit of feedback locally about what people want to do locally.
Right.
To sort of mark the event, because we've got this idea of real-world anchors. The chickens are coming in the house.
Oh, yeah, should be. Hey, whoosh, whoosh, go on, whoosh. They understand whoosh.
Good.
Yeah.
We should make no mistake that electronic civil disturbance does impose costs, and sometimes these are quite substantial. In the literature on this, some scholars suggest that the costs of even minor disruptions to electronic commerce run into the billions of dollars. Now, there are many ways to calculate costs, but let's just agree, it's costly to do this. This is why they're engaging in these kinds of virtual sit-ins. It's why civil disobedience has arisen in the 20th century, because by stopping up the works, you impose costs and force people to pay attention to your point of view.
Meet Reno. He's the Hacktivist world's clown prince of code slinging.
Je suis pas un hacker, ce genre de choses. Je me voyais traiter de packet monkey, c'est-à-dire de singe de paquet. Pour moi, personnellement, je pense que c'est plutôt guignol du réseau. Je pense qu'on peut arriver par Internet, par ce biais justement de communautés au niveau planétaire, d'échanges de pensées, de cultures différentes, de choses comme ça, d'arriver à une autre façon de voir la politique et la façon de penser la politique. C'est-à-dire c'est pas la politique politicienne, mais le noble terme politique.
The Federation of Random Action's automated emailing campaign helped win the public relations war between a big oil company and a small indigenous tribe from Colombia, whose land was under threat from exploration. In the process, Reno became the internet protest world's most wanted. And while they never traced him in the flesh, the company was stalking him in cyberspace.
Ils m'ont menacé en fait d'un procès. Donc, je me suis renseigné aussi au niveau des lois américaines, à savoir en fait ils avaient dû remettre leur site en ligne, donc ça faisait $1000 par site, ça faisait $5000. Ça arrivait tout juste à pouvoir poser une condamnation aux États-Unis pour, je crois que c'est un an ferme de prison par rapport à ça. Et ensuite, à la suite de ça, donc ça s'est passé. Et quelques mois après, en fait, j'ai eu des nouvelles par un mail d'une personne que je ne connaissais absolument pas, qui était en train de me dire de faire attention, parce qu'aux États-Unis, le FBI avait ouvert une enquête, c'était aller toquer à la porte des gens qui avaient participé à l'action. Et justement, moi, ça m'a fait beaucoup rire, puisque étant à Marseille, ça m'a fait justement penser à French Connection, ce genre de choses.
Back in Toronto, Nat finds himself in a mock blockade organized to show the new recruits what it really might be like on the streets of Quebec.
Put yourselves and remove yourselves from this intersection. Otherwise, you shall be arrested. This is your final warning.
The exercise that we did in the street was a good replica. I mean, I've seen it happen before, and the police did a very good job in that exercise. I thought they were pretty realistic. My experience here has got me thinking about what I can do to sort of bring the electronic protest and a street protest together. There's a lot of resistance because people, I think, that are chaining themselves to the street and are enduring pepper spray and being hit with batons sort of see people sitting at their computer as sort of opting out, and
in a sense, it's sort of true, but the two, online protest is not sort of a replacement. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in Quebec, especially because of the 3-meter fence that they're going to be putting up. I mean, how effective are the street protests going to be with the fence there, and how effective will online protest be, because that fence doesn't mean anything to us.
I think the notion of freedom of movement in cyberspace is very closely related to the physical freedom of movement. Why in the world would we want to create a fence around a meeting in which the future of 2 continents was being decided? If indeed we're going to leave no one behind, why would we shut people out?
Take one roll down, put up another one.
Because even as they succeed in physically keeping these actors out, they are losing the battle of the story. The more they succeed, the more they lose.
An estimated 300,000 people poured into Washington, D.C. for the inauguration of the 43rd president, George W. Bush. Protesters from all over the country came to challenge the Bush administration on a wide range of issues, under the tightest security restrictions ever during
You don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be a hacker. You don't have to charge a police riot line. All you've got to do is walk into your house, boot up your computer, connect to the internet, and press a couple buttons from that tool that you just got in an email attachment. And you can take an active role, you can take a part in supporting the cause.
The cyber sleuth is the frontline soldier of a burgeoning new business venture. The Internet Intelligence Agency. Meet Ben Vensky, a man at the top of his profession. His clients are cashed-up corporations with enemies on the internet. He's paid a handsome sum to protect them from cyber attack. It's a 24-hour-a-day job, scouring the web, crisscrossing time zones and continents. His downtime spent in the company of models, with the odd cigar and a dash of Polish vodka.
What we're seeing now on the internet is much like when you'd be traveling into a city. You'll go through your fine shopping district and you'll have different places you can shop, and these would be your Amazon.coms and your other places like that online. Then you go 4 blocks in the other direction, you're still in the same city, but suddenly you're in a very seedy part of the neighborhood, a part where you might not want to stop at a stoplight, you might want to keep on driving. Now, everything that we're used to dealing in the physical world has now also moved into cyberspace. We're dealing with organized crime, we're dealing with terrorist groups, with activist groups, vigilantes, petty thieves. The focus of my work is to understand who these people are, what are they capable of, what drives them, in order to assess what kind of risk they pose to our clients. And in doing that, you begin to develop an understanding of kind of who they are.
Meet Ricardo, actor, agitator, artist, theorist, and one of hacktivism's founding fathers.
When I came to New York in 1991, what I was looking for was a platform that would allow me to create a space for electronic civil disobedience. One tries to create a space that allows one's voice and body to create its presence in the world in a non-violent manner, but to make it as strong and as directed and as emotive as possible. Electronic civil disobedience is nonviolent direct action online. It follows the theory of Thoreau on civil disobedience that was then developed by Gandhi, Martin Luther King, ACT UP during the 80s, AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. We never destroy a server. We never change anybody's web page. We never hijack their name or domain name.
It was in the hills of Chiapas in 1994 that the first shots were fired in the information war. Despite being without electricity or telephone, the Zapatistas took the revolution online, issuing a call to arms across the internet for others to join them in a worldwide struggle against economic imperialism. Ricardo Dominguez and his Electronic Disturbance Theatre were among the first to heed the call.
Really, what is a Zapatista is those who can take into their heart the poetic gestures, the gestures of information war, which cross the boundaries of what is. For instance, on January 3rd, 2000, newspapers around the world had Zapatista Air Force attacks Mexican military. Nobody knew the Zapatistas even had planes. Nobody even knew the Zapatistas could fly. But if you read the story, suddenly you discover that these Zapatista Air Force were paper airplanes made of many different colors. Inside were messages of peace. So what the soldiers were shooting at were these paper airplanes. And there you have this enactment of a simulation, of a gesture which creates this magical space where indeed there does exist a Zapatista Air Force. Because what you're trying to get out is what the Zapatistas say is information war. That is, words as war, not words for war.
Inspired by the Zapatistas' ideas, Ricardo and his crew launched their FloodNet tool as the paper aeroplane of cyberspace.
Hey, Ricardo, your friend's dog doesn't want me here.
I know. Don't worry.
Meet Carmen. She's the troupe's graphic designer, responsible for giving FloodNet its user-friendly look.
I got here. My flight was late, but I made it. So good to see you.
She's down from Boston on a rare flesh visit to show Ricardo the new designs for their soon-to-be-published book about hacktivism.
The first thing I ever read about what we did that was just published, in mass media, was a tiny little article in Computer World, probably in March '98, and it said something like, "Beware of worldwide insurrection." And and we're thinking like, oh my God, now we're going to take over the world. And it's so silly because FloodNet, it's a symbolic gesture. It's not like, it can't take over the world. It's just completely hilarious. The Zapatistas with their airplanes. We just take that one image, and I put that image in, and then I cut out the years so that you only see it when you roll over, and you'll only see a part of it. The other way that I had it, I guess I've already changed it. I had the date, like, by who it was,
Maybe,
and then the date was right next to it.
Because a lot of this content does have the date when you go there.
Yeah. So basically, we're doing nothing. It's an art piece. It's a performance. It's a performance that mobilizes thousands of people at a global level. Therefore, it's also a threat to any government. Any government is going to get upset if somebody other than them knows how to mobilize large masses of people.
The development of the various attack tools in the Hacktivist arsenal has been an evolutionary process, with one code building upon the next. Reno is the master of reworking the riff to make the software more fun and more relevant for those who join in.
Le fonctionnement, en fait, c'est un peu comme justement certaines façons de prendre la musique, comme on pourrait prendre pour le raga par exemple, ou comme la techno, où en fait qui ne jouent qu'avec des samples, où les gens utilisent les samples d'autres et refont des versions différentes, et chacun sample les autres, et on arrive toujours à des morceaux nouveaux, un peu comme donc on a les cadavres exquis, ce genre de choses.
Floodnet, c'est un rapport avec le flooding, les fonctions anti-flooding qui sont sur les firewalls ou
des choses comme ça. Ouais. Floodnet, le problème, c'est que c'est entièrement automatisé. Donc tu peux dire ton truc et puis aller boire une bière. Et t'as l'ordinateur qui travaille pour toi. Ça peut marcher aussi comme ça, mais j'aimerais bien que ça s'applique un peu plus, quoi. Donc là, en fait, le truc, c'est que tu dessines.
In every action, the tools take one or two evolutionary steps to begin to develop new features like a chat session or something where you can draw on the screen while you're launching an attack. And what we've done with the Electro Hippies Federation of Random Action, or the FRA, Ricardo Dominguez's Floodnet tool and others, is begin to develop a library, if you will, of these different attack tools and kind of monitor the evolution of the programming and of the code so that we can understand how it relates to our client systems.
This farm in West Wales, nicely in the middle of nowhere really, is one of the places we go to do some work on computers. Another strand of what I do is obtaining and maintaining computers for community groups, and also supplying computers for actions if they haven't got a computer already. And most of those computers are recycled. They are junk, which I can get from London. And really it's the junk that business throws out, that they consider worthless, that we can put together into something that communities can find useful. Llandilo is a little West Wales town, about 2,000 people, and there's very low level of service. I mean, I think there may be a library, but it's not open very long, and I'm not sure if it even has the internet. The group in Llandilo, they have a shop which they sort of sell recycled, reused goods from, and we've been using that as a base for some actions recently in support of their local campaigns against supermarkets. And so we've supplied them with a computer, and we've with them, wrote them a little script that would generate letters as part of their campaign.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. We were concerned about 2 local supermarket developments that were given approval on the same day. 2 supermarket stores within 150 yards of each other.
Not in Carmarthen.
No, here.
Oh, here?
In Llandilo, yeah.
Oh, good Lord, yeah.
We were saying this is nuts. No, call this... for God's sake, Assembly, you're here to represent the people. Call this in for a public inquiry. And we're inviting members of the public to come in and... would you like to help us with our campaign? And first of all, we go to the top of the sheet and type in your name and address, and then you click on those, like that. So we do 3s, let's say. And then you go to the bottom of the sheet, click that button, and then we can print it out. It helped, it really did help, because I think we're now going to head to a public inquiry situation.
So that should sort it out.
Yeah. The whole idea of the Electro Hippies tools is that they will run on anything, they will run anywhere, and we try and, as far as possible, to make them run on the latest computers, but also perhaps on 5 or 6-year-old computers, so we don't exclude anybody. And so yes, the sort of technology we're using, little out-the-back places like this, yeah, you can take part in an action, a global action, with hundreds of thousands of other people.
Since moving to Toronto from Vancouver, Nart's been looking for allies for his new ideas about taking hacktivism to the streets. DAO is an online meeting place and internet service provider for hardcore anarchist groups, and seems a logical place to start.
Highly skilled male technical workers in North America and Europe, right? These are who the already hacktivists are looking to attract as their constituency. And DAO has always said, you know, that's not a constituency we're interested in pursuing right now. I mean, other people can look at that constituency, but we kind of think that they're all right. What we'd rather do is look towards, you know, students, workers, people who, for various class reasons, have a vested interest in overthrowing capitalism. What would be, within the context of the Summit of the Americas, you know, a relevant or tactical example of hacktivism? You know, and they would be literally breaking in to the opposition systems, finding their memos, right? Finding their security plans, you know, finding the internal intelligence channels, finding out who the undercover cops were. I mean, this is the type of information that hacktivists should be turning to the public. Because, I mean, I could see the, you know, the merits of the popular education, right? Of, like, having you, the operative, on the ground sort of as the eyes and the ears and letting people participate via remote. I mean, that's a good idea. But clogging up the net, is that a good idea?
I think of it in the same terms as the people in the street are going to be clogging up the street and no cars are going to be able to get through.
But every car that tried to go through would see the people. They would say, hey, what are those people doing there? They're protesting. What's it about? And they would learn about the issues.
Yeah.
So in that case, their inconvenience comes with the education.
Although there are many like Jesse who have their doubts, the hacktivists' true believers point to a David versus Goliath battle. In the legendary toy war of late 1999, the campaigners' success was undisputed. But the cause celebrities was something else again.
Money and shares are the objects of our desire, but art is what we would kill for.
Story, resistance, story.
eToy is a group of surreal business people. We are in the business of playing with corporate giants, with exciting playgrounds on the internet. eToy was always the group that represented like a very commercial image. Some people thought it's irony, others thought we are just jerks who want to make a lot of cash, and it's both true. I mean, we don't make a separation between art and commerce.
The American .com retail giant eToys Incorporated was one of the bright stars of the new economy. A toy shop with no shops, just a website and a warehouse. There was just one small hitch. An obscure Zurich-based art group called eToy, without an S, which already had the rights to the domain name etoy.com. The company thought $500,000 US should be enough to buy them off.
Our response to the first offer they made was a smiley face, an ASCII smiley face, which basically said, fuck off, we don't accept such a deal. If you want to do business with us, you have to be much more serious. After we rejected several offers, they showed us that they will sue if we don't sell. With the help of an American court, they cut off our website first and later even the email system of the eToy Corporation. At this point, Toy War started.
All hands man your battle station.
It was only a battle over a domain name after all, but for cyber activists it was really about freedom on the internet. Only weeks before, many of the same people had taken part in the e-hippie Seattle protest. Now tens of thousands of them joined in a massive online swarm to bring down the toy company.
What occurred was a decision to kind of strike at eToys at the height of Christmas, like 12 days of Christmas action, you might say, where we would start having multi-mirrors around the globe doing a virtual sit-in on their site. We had some people from hell.com doing psychological operations on the trading boards, telling people how bad this was going. RT Mark was sending out via their massive email list propaganda about destroying etoys.com. The game was to bring their $84 share value down to zero in 12 days.
There were very interesting weapons. One interesting weapon was developed by an American software engineer. It was very anonymous. It allowed people to create virtual shoppers.
What the script did in the FloodNet manner of reloading was it reloaded a process of shopping. So it went through the entire arc of buying randomly, different objects, going all the way to the cash register, about to finish filling out the cash register form, and then canceling out of it and restarting again. Now, by the third or fourth day of the action, there was news reports that etoys.com was the most difficult site to order anything on.
You could stay at home and your virtual shopper was doing your work. And you could take a bus or anything, whatever you wanted. That was the first time you don't have to go to a demonstration like in the 80s. So it was fantastic to go for a walk and your toy soldier is fighting now against this big, huge company who wants to play with us, actually.
After exactly 81 days, Toy War was over. The whole thing became a disaster for their company. The share price crashed, so they lost more than $4 billion within 3 months. In March 2001, eToys Incorporated filed for bankruptcy.
The eToys conflict that occurred was a very significant event. The fact that the company did shut down, it was proof of concept. It demonstrated that a group of people taking part in a virtual protest, a cyber action, could impact a very large and well-off corporation at that point in time. And I think what it's done is it's kind of swelled the ranks, or if you will, and served as a great morale booster for all of the actions that have followed since.
For a cyber sleuth to be worth his fee, his clients need to know in advance that a hacktivist group is targeting them for an attack. To keep ahead of the game, Ben Vensky's been up since 4 a.m., ploughing through the 4,000 or so emails that fill his inbox each day.
One of the things that we're always trying to do and work on is to be able to tell a client that a group is planning an attack on them in advance. And we'll look at where are the activists communicating, where are they discussing these things, how are they planning them, looking at their own websites, at their own information they release. And one of the upcoming campaigns that we've been following with some interest is the move by the electro hippies to carry out an action against companies and government organizations that are involved in the upcoming meeting in Quebec, Canada. And they've dubbed their new action, "The Mouse is Mightier Than the Baton."
The tactics that will be used by activists will be swarming. This is the use of advanced information technologies to engage in a kind of command and control that allows you to attack the adversary from every direction simultaneously. Quite simply, it's like the swarm of bees or mosquitoes or other insects that often overwhelm their targets.
When I think of globalization, I think of Reno being in France, Paul being in London, Ricardo being in New York, all of us sort of getting together, getting people in Europe, getting people in Latin America, getting everyone to join in online, to voice their concerns, And when I think about globalization, that's what I think about. I think that resistance is global, that activism is global, that hacktivism is global.
Cyber activists rarely know the sound of each other's voices. Until now, the conspirators in the Quebec online protest have communicated only by email. Their group meetings are held via live text-based chat.
Reno has developed a JavaScript bot that can email a lot of mail to a particular target, and Paul wants to do it one person, one email.
Right.
So it's actually legitimately trying to get in touch with your representatives or whoever.
Right.
Whereas Reno is talking about just
see.
blasting emails at somebody.
But it's people rather than organizations.
For email, yeah.
Right. And what will that do? Will that shut them down?
No, it would just be annoying.
Oh.
With the protest only about 4 days away, it was good to discuss some of the details and to find out from Paul what needed to be done. And it was constructive in the sense that we talked about the FTAA, we talked about the organizing that was going on, and what kind of support from the ground that I could provide the people online from Quebec. Paul's gone for tea. I think we got everything that we need covered.
I think so.
Maybe we can pick up a flashlight or something too, because we have no idea
Oh, yeah.
where we're
Yeah,
going to be
okay.
sleeping. This is the most important.
From here, there's no turning back.
Pack those, and then you need
The plan
3 pairs of
is for
socks.
Nat's own A20 protest website to link to the main electro-hippie site and provide them with updates via his laptop and cell phone live from the streets of Quebec.
Well, it's very interesting to see that in such a protest potential for a summit, we have many people who come here personally for protests. And we've seen recently in recent summits that there are many groups that decide to protest from their homes. And in so doing, they're able to attack any sites internationally without having to leave their homes and cause quite a bit of havoc.
You can load it up. It's not incredibly quick, it's only an old Pentium.
Across the other side of the Atlantic, the electro-hippies release a list of the target websites they intend to disrupt. There are 26 sites nominated, including the local and national police, the major corporate sponsors, as well as the main summit pages. As the big day dawns, the summit's PR machine switches into overdrive. With every dignitary's arrival is a photo opportunity to be uplinked for downloading to a waiting world.
What we're going to do tonight is join in the FTAA action in Quebec. Let's do the sit-in action. What this page does, it's a way of launching lots and lots of pages on the screen. And each one of those pages randomly steps through a preset list of different sites who are supporting the FTAA. And so what we're going to do today is set up to go after the conference site. And then we press the button. Now when you press the button, you get a little dialogue here that says, You are about to take part in an online protest action. Please confirm that you are taking part willingly by clicking OK, or if not, click on Cancel. So you're taking part willingly? Oh yeah,
Right, of course we're taking part willingly.
Fight the power! Children earning pennies an hour! What do we do? Fight the power!
United will never be defeated. The people, united, will never be defeated. The people, united, will never be defeated.
As the marches left from the University of Laval, they split up at one point.
People who want to make direct action, who want to make civil disobedience, can go to the perimeter. There's more risk, but we go straight.
We had to make the decision about whether we were going to continue on with the march that was going to be going to the front lines where the police were going to be confronted, which was a potentially arrestable situation.
So, should we do a countdown from 10?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ce type de comportement que nous avons vu ici cet après-midi de la part de petits groupes d'extrémistes est contraire à tous les principes démocratiques qui nous sont si chers.
The sit-in page we just took part in, yesterday there were just over 6,000 requests for that page. And since Friday, when it actually went on, there's been just over 8,000. But while we've been talking, in the background...
We've been protesting.
We've been protesting. It's easy, isn't it?
Well, we can't be there.
We can't be there.
We can't be there, so we can do this.
Yeah.
This was sort of a medieval pitched battle. The riot police came out and flanked the protesters. It was very chaotic. The crowd was moving back and forth with the tear gas as it was being fired. And it went on like this all day long. It was really amazing to have a chat with Reno from the Federation of Random Action in France, live from the streets in Quebec City. And it was neat to sort of have people react to what I was experiencing as I told them about it.
Meanwhile, on the other side of cyberspace, the Canadian police have been keeping a close eye on the protests being organised from Wales. And though they've been practicing the names, they might be overestimating the reality of the threat.
The name of the groups that are doing these attacks and threatening to attack these various sites are the e-hippies, and they're international. They're basically from all over the world, and their intention is on choosing specific sites and wreaking havoc on those sites. Our national site had adequate protection. However, our provincial site for Quebec did not have adequate protection, so it's actually closed throughout the summit for the duration and will be brought back up online once the summit has ended. We did not want to have cyber hackers coming onto the websites and either misinforming the public, changing the information we had on there, making statements that did not reflect our intentions. These were the type of things that we wanted to avoid in closing down the sites.
I found it interesting, looking at incidents in Quebec, that the authorities had so little confidence in their own information infrastructure. And the fact that they were so easily intimidated by the potential of information attack is a real augury of the future. Hacktivism works, and it will work even better as time goes by.
What's been really nice about this whole event, really, is that it's the first time we've really contacted lots of other campaigners, online campaigners around the world. So we've had like Reno and Nart and working with them and pooling our resources and linking to each other's sites. And in that way, it's been quite successful. And we've never met, but over the internet, you can meet people and do stuff, and it all works really well. So I think in the future, that's the way it's going to develop.
As much as the organized nation states of the Americas were able to fence out the activists and to suppress them, they still lost the battle of the story. The story that goes out to the world is that there is an emerging civil society that cannot be denied. Now, this campaign is going to be a long one and will be filled with many hard knocks and many defeats for the activists. But in the end, the story is a compelling one.
What we are seeing is that the physical protests are growing larger and larger. This movement has momentum, and any city that's going to lay host to one of these world summits is going to have to deal with that. So I think that electronic forms of protest will become more prevalent, and as they become more developed and more sophisticated, they'll have more and more of an impact.